let's test the audio. 1, 2, 3. Alright. That's barely any delay on my end. That's fantastic. Hello, everyone. We are going to be doing more of the usual. That is to say, we're going to be doing, Blender stuff. Pod12 is still giving me issues on Destiny, so yeah, we're gonna be doing our work in Chiso today because it's the only thing that loads for me at the moment. Well, I mean, Nabry and Ratio Road, but well, the thing we're starting with today is going to be light maps. Oopsie. Excuse that. The little teaser there. Did not mean to have that one. Anyway, we're going to quickly pop into Uru real quick. So, Shora MSK. Yeah. Uru, yeah, so for those of you who have been to Chiso, you will know that the basement, it uses a lot of light maps. There are a lot of fixed in place shadows. I spent a lot of time this week trying to figure out how to do light maps to match the existing light maps, because in one case, one of the desks had its light map improperly imported, and it was all light white and blah 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 blah. Anyway, I also had to update Kelsey's desk because I was adding a big bright lamp to her desk. So, yeah. Anyway, what was it? Anyway, yeah. We have a lot that's been going... I have a lot that's been going on here this week with Chiso, and, yeah. So, we're going to pop on into the Age. As soon as it finishes loading. And I'm going to show you some of the light map work I've been doing. Upstairs is still normal. Everything should look normal. Everything should look fine. Although, now that I know what I'm doing, I think I can fix these chairs in the bottom of the desks being so dark when they really shouldn't be. Seriously, almost pitch black in this lighting. Don't know what's going on there, but I will figure it out. Pop the door here. I do still love that I can slip by that. And now, if we look here, wow, that's some different lighting, isn't it? Ignore the office over there. We'll be, for the moment, that's where we're going to be focusing our work today. So, it's a little off, just to give us a weird starting point. Anyway, so this is an existing light map. This is what was already here for this table. Here's another table with a light map. Everything's pretty much where it should be. And then over here, Duranda sent me some textures for the journals and some updated text for the journals. So these will be properly updated in the coming update. And anyway, some extra texture stuff here. Anyway, but yeah, light maps. You can see that there are existing light maps. Yeah. Anyway, light maps on the floor. I rebaked the whole floor light map, and I am considering rebaking the wall light maps here, or at least this section of the wall here, because Kelsey's lamp is very, very bright. And look at that thing. That is a bright thing. Anyway, right here you can compare an old light map to a new light map. And you can see that the old light map is actually kind of subtle in its shadows in certain areas. I still have not exactly cracked Doob's exact formula. But I am confident that if I need to, I can rebake a light map and I can have it mostly match. I'm still having some issues with shadows being a bit thicker than whatever Dubes was doing before in places, but at this point, there's nothing I can really do about it. I mean, these look fine, but they also look kind of at angles. So anyway, yeah, Kelsey's has a big old pile of books on her desk that have kind of spilled over. Anyway, the main notice over here you'll notice is the blue and red lighting over here from these crystal lamps, which, yeah, they did not have that before. The crystals had a little glow effect around them. But yeah, you'll notice that the Moiety Dagger here is actually kind of casting a shadow sideways, which is not what I want it to do, but we will work on that later. Anyway, it's really anyway, you'll notice the folders are kind of doing some weird shadows where, they're getting, like, these full, thick shadow boxes around the edges. So I will give you an example of what that is when we go into the office here, when we work on the desk light map there. It's going to be a temporary light map because I'm not done placing props in there, but I want to give you guys a sense of what we're doing in here before we jump over to Pod 12 and try and do some more light map things there. Anyway, point is light maps are not exactly the one-to-one thing. You think, oh, this light map on this desk is cast by the lamp, the crystal, and the lights around it. You'd be correct and incorrect at the same time. Because to get the dark shadows like this, I could not accomplish this with fixed static lighting. I could not create the looks I wanted using all of the lamps exactly where they were at the time of export of baking of the light map. And more importantly than that, I also had to, so like you see this warm glow around the lamp here as we get closer to it. That is a sprite plane, and that sprite plane was interfering with the shadows. So in order, like, when I was baking the light maps for this room here, everywhere there was a drop shadow that I put in, like right here, there's a drop shadow for this box. It was causing a big, thick square to pop up on the ground. And I'll show you an example of that in a bit. So yeah, this room, we're going to be messing with the lighting in here. We are shoving everything aside on the desk to, put in some Descent prep work. The idea is that when Descent is fully ready, we will unlock this book here. That's a temp texture of the book cover. That's just the cleft book from Relto. Anyway, this is going to be an unlock. Once we're all ready, this is going to be an unlock book, and you can link to Descent from here. That's the idea, at least. But as you can see, we're using the old light map for the floor, which only casts shadows in certain directions. And these things here are not casting shadows. These things are not casting shadows. So, yeah, we're going to, well, except for that thing. Something's weird there. I was meaning to check on live before we got here, but you can see there's like a gap there, and it looks really weird. I don't know if I nudged something by accident or if it's always been like that. Either way, I'm going to adjust that so it's not a big old seam like that anymore. But yeah, you can see that there's shadows already on the floor, and you'll notice that the floor shadows even have effects of objects that are no longer in the positions they once were. So we're going to redo the light mapping in here just as a demonstration, and then we're going to jump over to Pod 12 where we're going to be doing some actual permanent light mapping. Sure, buddy! Welcome. Right then. So, this room. I currently have it set up so that everything, all the lamps in here are set to cast light in this room's light map group, which is not something I actually want all of the lamps to do. Like, I'm just gonna, like, get rid of the lights there, for example. And yeah, let's see here. How much? Yeah, so these lights are set to a 40 radius, so they are very large, very wide. They're encompassing, and they're working in the downstairs soft volume. Anyway, so let's just start with the floor first of all. So we're going to come over to the floor, and we're going to go to its UV maps. We're going to select Light Map Gen, and we're going to hit Edit on, or Tab on that to bring it into view. So as you can see here, this is what our light map for this office looks like as, you know, just a basis. So you've got the pattern from the windows on the floor. You've got the shadows from the desk. You got all these other shadows from the different lamps. You can see the colors on the floor. But it's missing all the new stuff that I've put in there. So in this case, I'm going to take a screenshot of this, and I'm going to open up Paint here. I'm going to paste that screenshot in here. You can't see it at the moment. And I'm in the way, actually. Let me move myself out of the way here. There we go. Anyway, right, so over here, you see over here, this is our light map. I can't believe I was in the way of the light map. Anyway, this is our light map window right here. As you can see, there's a whole lot of stuff on there. So, we're going to come over here to where we have it currently set to read the existing light map. I have this texture saved separately, so if need be, hypothetically, I should be able to revert to this. But anyways, we're going to go to this floor here. I'm going to do this. We want to be on Light Map 3. Yeah. Light Map 3 is what we want. Okay. And now, I'm going to exit out of the tab. Edit mode. So, I'm going to set this to our office light group. And I'm going to hit Bake for Export. And this is going to be a very quick export, comparatively speaking, to the whole age. And this is actually going to be handy for us, because we're going to end up iterating this light map a bunch of times. And look at that. It didn't really change too much. In fact, I dare say I don't think it changed any at all. Tab. Oh, yep, there it goes. There it goes. Okay. So, as you can see now, this is our new light map, and it does not look anything like what we want. It's got some colors and all that, but it's, yeah, it's not really doing the thing I want it to do. So let's come back over here, and let's re-add these to the light group that I just disabled them from. So, Descend Office, back to the floor here. We're going to Bake for Export. Come back over here. Tab. And that barely affects things. That barely added some new lighting to it. In fact, it looks like I didn't properly add the light. Nope, I did not add the light group to that one correctly. I hit the wrong one. There we go. Okay, so it's at this point you might be thinking, okay, so how do we fix this? This is the thing that I was puzzling over. How do we get the things to cast shadows properly? Frankly, the first step to that is to come over here to our... Let's start with the windows. We're going to come over here to our ray shadow. And we are going to leave it at ray shadow. Whatever defaults these already have, we're going to have ray shadow. We're going to come over here. I'm going to select the floor again. We're going to rebake the light. Map. Woo! And look, now we have some proper lighting, and it looks like it's actually affecting things a bit more. You're going to start to pick up on what the trick is with this, actually, as I work on this. And, well, obviously we're going to select these to be ray shadows. We're going to set all of these to be ray shadows. Ray shadow. It's already set to a ray shadow. Set that to a ray shadow. We'll come over here. We're going to bait for export. And yeah, now we have our little shadow for our thing over in this corner, which is, and we're starting to get the vibe of how this is starting to work, right? So as we're yeah. That might be because I set the eye blink to a lower level, buddy. Frankly, I was getting really tired about how it was winking every time I tilted my head one way or the other. I'm still so far off on the corner. Let me just bring myself over here. There we go. But yeah, I was getting tired of the eye blink going off every time I tilted my head, which was not what I was doing. So I adjusted the settings there. Anyway, as far as the light map goes, you can start to see how we're slowly piecing together the shadows. But you'll notice that if we go back to our original, hold on, let me get a window here. Window, capture, properties, explore. We want MS Paint. Okay, we turn that on. There we go. Okay, so if we come back over here and we compare, we'll see this original light map has a lot of dark values to it that our current one does not. You're probably thinking, how do we get those back? How do we get those to do what we want it to do? Frankly, there's a whole lot of things that we need it to do. So first and foremost, let me just hide the window capture again. So, first and foremost, we're going to come underneath the edge here, and I'm going to check on these two lamps here. This one is already set properly. Let's check the other. Come on, switch the other lamp. Come on, there's like 2 lamps nested here, dubes. This is direct light to. You're currently not set to anything. You're not set to. Okay. Anyway, these 2 lamps here are sun lamps. Dubes had them, for whatever reason, set up to do things. Anyway, let's see. What's this? This is a Sunsoft Union. Okay. That's for all of these lamp things. So like up here, we have a lamp. This is set to that sort of thing. So I do have a slight concern about what I'm doing with these. Come on, let me select that lamp. So this is casting a shadow through, I believe this is our material. And these are our windows. And these are our windows. So down here, we have a similar setup. Now, you can come over here, and this is a sun lamp. I'm going to set this one to our descent office temporarily. This one's set to cast a ray shadow. But depending on how this works, I may be changing what type of shadow it's baking. Again, we're kind of playing this by ear to make sure we kind of get the effect that we want. Yeah, see, that didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. That did not work the way I wanted it to, because that's not, yeah. Okay. Well, we're just gonna remove that from this light group. So, I have concerns about this whole light map situation. My primary concern here is that I will not be able to replicate the big ol' window spotlight thing that Doobs had going on to cover the floor, like is here in our window capture here. Yeah, I'm worried I'm not going to be able to capture that patterning from the windows. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Oh, okay, that sun was... Okay, I do need to put that sun lamp back, because that sun lamp was actually part of it. I just had it at the wrong height, because Doobs must have changed the height of it? Okay, so that is still going to be part of this light map. Okay. I think. Okay, yeah, I'm kind of playing this by ear. Anyway. Anyway. We're going to select these two lamps here that I have. These are two lamps that I have made that, well, let's be honest here. They are set in a very specific way. You want to know what that way is? They're set to ray shadow, but they're set to shadow only. So, what do you think will happen when I have two shadow-only lamps added to this light map? And I had that stupid window open the entire time. Yeah, anyway, we have two, sorry, my throat is dry. Anyway, we have two lamps here. They are set to ray shadow and shadow only. I've added them to the office light group. So, now comes the fun part. Let me just grab a couple objects here so I know the rough layout of the room. There we go. Okay, so we have two lamps here. If I just bake this right now, it's not going to look very good, but it will give us an idea of how things are going to look with those turned on. As you can see now, this casts very dramatic shadows. So, we do not want those casting those very dramatic shadows right there. We want these casting these very dramatic shadows from over here. I'm going to raise them up a bit just to give us a little more breathing room. I'm going to bake that again. And that is not at all what I want it to look like. No, no, no. Although that is a very dramatic set of lighting, isn't it? So you're going to start to pick up on the pattern here with what we're dealing with. So we go back to here. So if we look here, the pattern that we start to pick up on is pretty simple. All of those corner lamps do not seem to be casting shadows. These side window lamps are not casting direct shadows. They are instead casting light only. So we're going to come out of here. I'm going to come to this lamp here. Come on. Boop. There we go. We're going to set that to no shadow. We're going to set this to no shadow. We're going to set this to no shadow, and we're going to set this to no shadow. Now, we're going to bake the light map again. And again, that's not looking so good because we have our two little lamps that we've added. Our little boop, boop lamps. I'm just going to pull them back a bit more. And in fact, we are going to turn them from point lamps to spot lamps. Yeah. We want ray shadow, only shadow. We want ray shadow, only shadow. So now these are pointing straight down. And that's not quite what we want. We're going to rotate them a bit like this. And these lamps. Yeah, okay, they've just got one across the board. Okay. I'm going to set that to 1. I'm going to set that to 1. I'm going to set this to 1. And we're going to set this to 1. And now we're going to come here to our floor. We're going to bake the light map again. And ideally, yeah, something that's not quite right either, is it? Are these just too close, perhaps? Let's pull them back a bit more. See, the thing I'm really worried about here, again, is that I'm not going to be able to get those to cast the shadows that I want. And it's looking like they're not. I'm going to come over here to our window meshes here. And I'm going to add these to... I'm just going to separate that to its own mesh. And I'm going to add these to the Descent Office mesh. And now we're going to try that again. We're going to come back here. We're going to bake the light map. And we're going to see if that affects things. But it doesn't. So, I think I know what I'm going to have to do here. And what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to manually combine two light maps. That is to say, I still was hiding it as I brought you. Anyway, it's still not working. I edited the window meshes. Anyway, point is that this, I think, is going to have to be edited to contain new information from the new light map that I'm trying to generate. Which is going to be its own set of problems, I think. Okay, right. So, the main thing I'm primarily worried about at the moment, well, oh. Come back to these. We're going to set these back to points. Points. Okay. We're going to ignore the windows for the moment. Okay, we're going to ignore all that for the moment. Let's put material on for the moment, just so we can have a better look at this. So, we have our two lamps here. So, my main concern overall is getting lighting over here for this thing here. Again, this is all temporary light mapping because we're gonna end up getting this. We're gonna end up redoing this later anyway, so I'm not gonna fuss too much about it. Like I said, this is just for the general training of it. Yeah, so we're gonna redo the light map here, and look at how dark that is now. That is extremely dark in that corner, which is not at all what I want specifically. So I'm going to take this lamp and I'm going to just drag it all the way back this way towards the edge of it. We're going to bake the export again. And that looks a whole lot more natural. So we're going to come along here. I'm going to print screen this. Gonna come back to our Photoshop. Actually, I'm going to open up GIMP next. And we're going to go to my Chiso Primitive Textures. Okay, we're looking for Office. Okay, what can you guys see? You cannot see anything. Okay, at least you guys can see GIMP in the background. So let me just quickly drop my light map texture in there. There we go. Close that. Okay, so I'm going to select the light map section from the screenshot I took. Boop. I'm going to paste it in here. To new layer. Now, layer scale, this is a 512 by 512. Layer, we're going to scale this. 512 by 10, that's good enough. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so like I said, my main concern here is, see, let me set this to hard light. I'm going to set this to soft light. And see, now what we're doing here is I'm taking the existing light map and I'm adding it over our new light map. Grain. Overlay? Ooh, hello. Boop, boop. That looks kind of nice. Yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of like the look at that. Okay, so I'm going to... Before I do anything, concept revisit, go back to our folder here. Office. I'm going to copy this texture just in case I screw it up. So I'm going to keep that texture around. I'm going to keep that texture around in case I need it. So now that I've done this, see, I think I figured out part of why that looks off now. And it's because I have a diffuse lamp in here. That does not need to be a diffuse lamp. It is you. That does not need to be in the descent office. We're going to go back to this. We're going to bake this again, because I am not happy with the color on that. Yeah! Okay, now we're in business. Print screen. We're going to go. And you did not see any of that because it was behind the window. Okay. Anyway, and it was also behind GIMP, because of course it was behind GIMP. Let me just disable that. GIMP. There we go. Okay, so now we have a new light map. We have a new light map. We have a new light map. Boom. Okay. I'm going to select this again. Select. Okay. Okay. 2 new layer. Okay. Hold on. You need to see GIMP again, because of course you do. Boop. Okay. Now we're going to layer, scale layer, 512. Cancel. This is layer scale. This is 512 by 512, right? Layer scale 512. There we go. So now we have a much better lit version of this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. See? Set this to soft light. Hard light? Grain merged. Ooh, no. Color. Saturation. Value. Oh, hello. Hue? Nope. Difference? Nope, definitely not that. Multiply. Too dark. Addition. Whoa. Too bright, but maybe... Vivid light? No. Hard light. Soft light? Addition? Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to go with this. I'm going to first and foremost, I'm going to save this as office floor LM. And now I'm going to export over the existing PNG. And now I'm going to exit out of GIMP here. I'm going to come back over to here. And then I'm just going to select office floor LM. And if I've done everything correctly just now, when we go to test the age, we will have our merged light map added. So it should maintain the fancy patterns from the windows. So I was afraid I was going to be unable to replicate that. Anyway, this is all still just the trial and error part of me doing a tutorial thing. And this has been 40 minutes of this. We haven't even on Pod 12 yet. Which, even though I'll do the exporting and all that, we won't be able to test it in-game. So we're just going to have to do our best and pray that whatever we do will, work, look like, correct, exemplary, and so on and so forth. But anyway, yeah, so this is just a test run of trying to figure out how to do a new light map of an existing area. Fingers crossed I will have done this correctly, and we will... Nope, I just realized I forgot a step. In order to get it to work right. It's going to look really weird. I'm pretty sure it's going to look really, really weird, but we will go and we'll fix it. So, you have us a moment to actually load into the age, and you will see... Yes, it is going to look very, very weird, because I forgot a step. I forgot a very crucial step. Once we did all of that light map generation, it created that new little window, that new little tab, right? That new little UV map thing. If we come down here... Actually... That seems to have held together very well. Except not, because it's not using... It's using the original light map and not the new one I just did. Okay. Blender files. Boop. Office floor light map gen. Images. Okay, we'll try this again. We will try this again. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of this light map bit here. Test this again. Anyway, this is getting to the point where I think I'm going to give up on Chiso for the day, and I'm going to instead move over to Pod 12 once this is done. Simply because it's been almost an hour of the Chiso side of this, and I think I've gone across the main important points for this, but I don't know how it's gonna look until I do an export and push it to Mikata, because I can't go on Destiny right now. Please, universe, I didn't do anything wrong that time. Please, just let me go on Destiny again for Pod 12. My hope here is that I will be able to redo the light maps properly. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I don't think this is working the way I want it to work. Yeah, I don't think this is working the way I wanted it to work. The very least, I have the glow from the windows actually present, which is enough for the moment. Yeah, I don't think it's quite working the way I want it to work. We'll come back to fix it later. So we will come back to fix it later. So, Pod 12. Let's talk adjusting light maps for yeah. Okay, so I received a remark that the light maps for the chairs were not doing so hot. And frankly, I agree. This shadow thing and all it's just not working. It is not working. It is not working. It is totally not working. So, what is an explorer to do? Well, first of all, I'm gonna try just doing a bake lighting thing. I'm gonna set this to 512. Let's set this pod interior. Okay. This only has... This is set to UV map. So I will set this to UV map. And we're going to go over here to UV image editor. Tab. And here we go. We're going to do our first bake export for this floor. We're going to see what we get. Unsurprisingly, we get basically nothing. Basically nothing. So we're going to set this now to cast a ray shadow. We're going to set this to cast a ray shadow. And we're going to come to our spotlight here. We're going to tell this to cast a ray shadow. Now, we're going to come back to here. We're going to do our bake lighting. Okay, so yep, look at how that's all stretched out. So we're going to just project from view. I don't care about the actual texture. We're just going to yeah. So here, we're going to take a look at this real quick. First thing you're going to notice is a bunch of squares. Anyway, the squares are our existing shadow meshes for the chairs. Well, some other things. So I'm going to delete those because we're not doing the chairs anymore. And look, we got rid of one of our shadows, and now we have a chair. Perfect. I'm going to take our little texture square here that's causing us a shadow. I'm going to just merge it. I'm just going to actually just drop it under the floor here a bit, just so it's not going to interfere. And I'm going to do the same thing for these. I'm just going to drop them under the floor here. And the same thing for... Actually, no, I'm just going to get rid of that entirely. Because we're probably going to rebake the frickin' light map anyway. So, yeah, look at that. That's starting to cast better shadows under there. Thing is, I don't want Eddie casting a shadow. Or at least casting a permanent shadow. So we'll move Eddie out of the way. Okay. Okay. So we are now at the stage where I need to start mucking about with lamps. So we're going to take our lamp here. I'm going to increase the distance to 6. 60. I'm going to bake that again. And you'll notice we're now starting to get a more dramatic shadow for the Dreamstone in there, which is the look we want. But if we export this like it is, those shadows are not going to come out fantastically. In fact, they're probably going to come out very, well, let me just put it this way. I think I'm going to disable that texture flat out. So we're going to bake that again. And frankly, this animation did not work. I'm gonna just get rid of that texture animation. Boop. Right. Okay, whatever. We're just gonna change the diffuse color back to 1, 1. You know what? Let's try that. Bake for export. Ooh. Nope. 1. Bake. Okay. That's a nice neutral set of colors. That's a nice neutral color. So. First and foremost, I'm going to duplicate this lamp here. We're going to set it to shadow only. I'll come back here. I'm going to bake for export. We're going to see how that looks. That didn't seem to affect things too much. So we're now going to come to this lamp. I'm going to duplicate it. And set it to only shadow. And we're gonna rebake the export. And looky there, now we have our shadows looking very, very nice and obvious. And you know what? I would dare say that's probably the final light we need it to have. Yeah, I think that's probably the final light path we need that to have. Although, again, I'm wondering why it's cutting off at the edges like that. Let me set this up to a higher texture size and see if we get tab. Tab? There we go. Is So we're going to change our light map to UV map 01, because that would explain why it's not doing the light map I want it to do. We're going to bake for export. Tab. There we go. That's better. It matches the room better. And okay. I'm just going to remove those little plushies from sight for the moment because they are going to cause trouble. We're going to rebake our light map here. There we go. Now those plushies aren't there. So, theoretically now, if I were to go into the age, we would probably see good shadows there. But there's a big but here. I'm going to bring this in a bit closer here. Come along in here. I'm going to bake that light again. Aha! That light is now too close. But it got rid of the weird spotlight that was going on around the ring, which was giving a weird sort of look. Now, I'm just going to adjust this lamp a bit more. I think I halved its distance too much. Let's bring that back to 50. And we're going to bake for export again. And there's our stone back! But it's now at a bad angle. Woo, this is now where we're going to have to do some trial and error to get things to get this to come along right. Okay, so we're going to pull this out, pull this up. I'm going to try and finesse this as much as I can into the angle of the window here. I'm going to try that again. Bake for export. Ooh hoo hoo hoo. Curiosity, what happens if I pull this way out here? Don't think it'll do anything too fancy, but we're going to try it anyways. Yeah, okay, so now we've lost the shadow on that. So we're going to check this back. We're going to change this to 100. Let's see how that works. Of course, the thing with these light maps is, whoa! Now that's too dark of a shadow. It's practically overwhelming everything else to the point of uselessness. So we're going to undo that. I'm going to do that again. I'm sorry if this is a little boring. Frankly, I'm trying to figure this out as I go along. Frankly, I think that's probably the best I'm going to get. Yeah, I think that's the best I'm going to get. I'm going to leave that like that for the moment. Yeah, I think that's the best I'm going to get for that specific light map. And let me just change that back down to 512, just because it doesn't need to be that big. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Okay, I'm going to live with that for the moment. I know I went to all the trouble to make some of these meshes, but this is the back wall floor upper. Go to our backlighting. Let's set that to 512. Interior light group. Tab. Okay. Okay. VMap, light map. Well, my computer is making some humming noises. I'm not sure it likes this, all of this. Ooh, look at all that shadow on that back wall there. You know what? I think I'm happy with that on the first try. I think I am happy with that on the first try. You know what? Actually, no, I'm not happy with that on the first try. I'm going to come back here. We're going to come back to this, and we're going to rebake that light map. Okay, I think that's a good, nice, good shadow there. It feels a little more jagged than it should be, though. Let me see here. Where's my bake lighting settings here? What did I have in what did Chiso import with? Chiso imported with automatic compression 15%. Aha! Needs to be shadow, not full render. Let's try that again. Still looks a little jagged, though. What am I missing? So we're both set to shadow. Metadata. Check post-processing. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Shading. Yeah, this is a very mind-taxing thing, these light maps. Okay, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to update the texture quality on this particular UV map. Texture size, rather. And I'm going to hope that that... Oh, yeah, that smoothed things out a whole lot nicer. Okay, that's a lot less jagged. Because it's trying to cover a smaller space with a let's try and cover a different size space with a different size texture. Okay, that works fine. So, I think I'm okay to leave that. I'm gonna be more. What I'm gonna be more cautious about are. And I know I spent all that time doing these shadow meshes for the walls. But you know what? You know what? You know what I'm just going to do? Okay. I'm going to separate this whole frickin' mesh in two. And the reason I'm going to split the whole frickin' mesh in two is so I can do the easy thing and bake two separate light maps. Or rather, I'm going to only bake a light map for the top floor for the moment, and then if I find that how the if I like how the light mapping looks for the top floor, I may redo the mapping on the bottom floor. Which means I put myself through all that hard mesh work for nothing, maybe. Well, maybe not for nothing. It was a good learning experience, if nothing else. And the learning experience in this case was, why are you doing this manually when you have a tool that will let you do this? And the worst part is that I have no idea how these are going to look until I get them into the game and I get to look at them, and I can't do that locally at the moment. So I am truly flying by the seat of my pants here, trusting that this is going to look good. And, yeah. Talk about patience and restraint and all that jazz, huh? Boop, 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 boop. I'm sure there's probably an easier way to select all of these faces, too. I just don't know what it is. You know, here's the other thing, too. If I was thinking ahead, when I'd originally split all of this into two texture planes, I would have just split the entire mesh right then and there. But I was not thinking ahead. And again, here's a part of me that understands why Chiso Primitive is kind of all broken up the way that it is. There are reasons that it is, yes, but there are also some points of it that are just, did it have to be broken up as much as it is? And I'm beginning to suspect the answer unfortunately, is yes. As much as I wish it wasn't. Come on, select those faces, dang you. Okay. Okay. Am I missing anything? Am I missing anything? Am I missing anything? No. New object! Okay. I'm going to do probably what I should have done in the first place with the ceiling bit. Missed ceiling. I'm going to parent you to pod int up floor. And then we're just going to go 0, 0, 0. Which actually, okay. Okay. Actually, no, you know what? I'm just going to pull it up, and I'll worry about getting that fixed later. Okay. Here we go. Pod, upper floor. Bake lighting. Come down here. I'm going to set this to 1024. We're going to set this interior light group. Tab A. What mesh do I have? Nothing that is... Okay, we're just going to make a new one. UV map. Light map. And we're going to do unwrap. Q project? No. Smart UV unwrap. Cylinder? Nope. Sphere project. Unwrap. Ah! That's where things are being weird. I missed some faces. Hope those are not necessary faces. Unwrap. Unwrap. There we go. That's a little cleaner. Okay, I'm going to have faith. I'm going to have faith that this is going to work. We're going to set this to the UV light map. We're going to bake for export. Okay. Okay, first and foremost, I was afraid it would do that. But I am not opposed to that particular kind of mesh right there. Main thing I have to do now is just remove the ceiling lamp. Actually, do I need to remove the ceiling lamp? Because I could just... I think I can probably cover that section up with our ceiling texture of the painting. But I have a different idea that I'll try first. And that idea is just to come up here with this. And I just disabled the entire texture. So we're going to bake that again and see how that works. And looky, it... It worked better. Okay. This is an even bigger space. So I'm going to try and bake that a little bit better. Okay. That's going to look very, very strange, but also very, very nice, I think. Oh, that's not that. That is that. That. Okay. I'm just going to zip it down as best as we can until it clips through. Now, I'm going to add a light map to this too. Okay, now which of these maps is the one I want to mess with? Map LM. There we go. Project from view bounds. Oop. App. Bake for export. And look at that. We now have some shadows on there too. And that should hopefully match up with all the other stuff. Okay, let's get this back in position. Okay. I have no idea if I'm going to need these shadows or not, but we will see later. For now, I'm going to come to the desk here. I'm going to boop, boop. I'm going to duplicate them. By selection. Desk texture, light map. We're gonna was dumb of me. Desk texture, and then you are desk texture light map. Okay. Gonna LM. See how to smart UV. Ooh, that might work just perfectly. Okay. And then this is UV map. So we're going to come along with backlighting. Interior light group. And we're going to go backlighting again. We're going to see how this looks. Ooh. I'm not sure about that. Hold on. Desk. What was the... Desk. Wood. Desk wood. Okay. Let's try that again and see how that see if the color changes on that. No. Okay. Still not sure why that's coming out so jagged edged compared to out of curiosity, if I move the book out of the way. Wait, let's see if that gets rid of that book. No, it did not get rid of the book. Okay. And again, bake for export. Right, because you have sides. Objects, bake for. There we go. Okay. Make sure I didn't screw up the UV meshing there. Okay, that should be fine. Yep, okay. Okay. So, hypotheoretically, everything except this top desk is now light mapped. Except for this desk here is now light mapped. Theoretically. Stuff. We go. Okay. Oh, okay. Thinking. I think my question at this stage is, what does it look like? And I cannot test that. Okay, so what next? Right, before I forget, let me try messing with this again and give it back the collision. Subworld stuff is not working. I'm not had the. Also, I've been mostly focused on the stuff, but yeah. Removed all the subworld stuff already off screen, so. But we'll come back to that another time once I actually know what I'm doing. Maybe. Hypothetically. Theoretically. For the moment, I am going to leave this mesh intact. However, this weird shadow thing can say bye-bye. Okay. I'm going to create a new map, light map. Cube project, smart UV project. That should do the trick. Bake lighting. 512. Light group. Interior. Lower. UV texture. Light map. Okay. Yes! It should work! It should work! Okay, look. Do you see the shadow on the side, the ladder shadow there? Yes, that is what I've been trying to get to cast properly all this time. Ah. Okay. We're gonna do the exact same thing. Map LM. tab. Okay. Big lighting. Well, this is light map. Bake. Okay. Okay. Before I do that, let's see. What do you look like? You look like a mess. Okay. The map. LM. Okay. Big lighting. 12 light group. Interior, lower floor, UV map. Bake. Tab. Why are you not what I want? You unwrap. Cube project. Smart UV project. Okay. Try that again. There we go. Now it's got the right stuff going for it. I do so find it weird, the little edge filler it gives these. It's like it gives itself a little breathing room. Okay. Okay. Go bake lighting. 512. Int lower. UV texture, lower map. Bake for export. The problem I'm having with Destiny is that the frickin' age refuses to load every time I go to it. I can show you the error, but it's just not going to work. Anyway, Douglasis and Mistler are trying to figure out what's going on, last I heard. And Mistler owns the Destiny shard, but yeah. I have not heard back anything about that, so let's shrug. Let's shrug. Let's shrug. Let's shrug. Let's shrug. Let's shrug. Okay, that's got some good cast lighting on it. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, Destiny is just off the table for the moment. I will get around to having it fixed eventually, somewhere, someday, somehow. But Today is not that day. Bake. GRR lower. Bake. I have no idea how any of this is gonna look, so this is gonna be a big surprise when we get to Mankata and actually look at this. I'm not gonna go through the trouble of doing all of these pillars just yet, mainly because I don't know what it's gonna. I just don't know. I don't know what they're gonna look like. So, yeah. Anyway, Pod 12. So we did some light maps. Woohoo! Yay! Shadows and light maps and yay! That's today's stream. That's 1 hour, 50 minutes of me fussing about with light maps. Yeah. Admittedly, the downstairs of Pod 12 is a lot simpler than the downstairs of Chiso because there are so many lights. And also, Pod 12 is my own creation, so I can just so I don't have to fuss with the light maps to try and recreate somebody else's light maps, if you know what I mean. Right? Right? Yeah, you get what I mean. Yeah, light maps. Better me than you, huh? Well, someday you may have to deal with this. Yeah. Someday you'll have to deal with this. It is very enlightening. Yes, I suppose it is. I think my main concern. I think I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna export this and push an update because I need to see what this looks like in game, and I'm gonna see it in Pod 12 eventually. But on Mikata, more than Destiny, but. Hopefully someday will be soonish too. Yes, yes, yes. Ideally. Yeah. The main thing that I think, I think the main thing that I'm worried about at the moment with Pod 12 is did I do all of that fancy shadow work, mesh making, for nothing? What is going to look better in Pod 12 when I come back to it? Are the pre-baked shadows going to look better, like the meshes that I made, or are the light map shadows going to look better? And I have no clue what's going to look better. And I also am worried about that jagged edginess, but I can try to smooth that out. Maybe Jim. No, I'd have to. Oh man, I'm gonna BRB right back. I'm gonna get some water. Be right back. Okay, yeah, I am back, and yeah, either way, I will get it right eventually. Pod 12 has more room for error than Chiso does. Do I call it for today? I mean, it's been 2 hours, basically. And I've gone through the major headaches of light maps for all of y'all. But it's only 11:48. I mean, I could keep going maybe for a little bit longer. Yeah, okay. I think I'm going to quickly swap to Ray's shoe here. And we're going to play around with light maps again. Oop. Ignore the no trees. Ignore the no trees. There we go. Okay, so ratio apartment. Yeah, let's see what my last export of this was. Yeah, ratio apartment. Let's come on, Uru, finish loading. There we go. Almost there. Okay, so Pod 12. So all of the lighting, all the shadow lighting I've done in here is an individual mesh. So like all of these shadows in here are individual meshes that I painstakingly meshed into place. And I think I am mostly happy with what I've done here. But the question I have is, I'm probably, instead of doing this in the main blend, I think what I'll probably do is I'll make a separate blend for this, and I'll play around with it there. Look, I'm happy with these shadows. At least visually. How the avatars react to them, not so much. That is its own hurdle, but I think I'm happy with how I did these shadows. I don't think I feel the need to try and mess around with light maps in here. Not yet. Not permanently. I am fairly happy with the shadows and the lighting in here. Like, I like the manual shadows that I've done. I am not opposed to these. I am happy with how these look. But at the same time, I recognize that they are a whole lot of complicated extra meshes that have to render on top of everything else, and maybe it would be more processor friendly if all of these shadows were light map shadows. Because then you're only rendering it a few times. I don't know. I do not know for sure what I want to do here. Yeah, I'm happy with the lighting in here. I don't think I want to mess with it. I really do not want to mess with the lighting in here. I think I am happy with the lighting as it currently stands. I do not want to mess with the lighting and the shadows in this room one bit. I have it in a way I'm happy with, these notwithstanding. But I think I am happy with this room as it is. I do not want to mess with it. So yeah, I'm going to leave this room as it is with the shadows as they are. I'm not going to mess with this. I'm not going to mess with it. I am not going to mess with it. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna call it a stream. I am tired out, man. I've been at this for long enough today that I am tired. I am super tired. I am getting hungry more than anything, I think. And I am probably going to have to update my stream background yet again once we get the new lighting in. Once I get to see what the new lighting looks like. Yeah, it's time for lunch. It is definitely time for lunch. I'm going to call it a stream, and I will see y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope y'all enjoyed the little look at how light maps work. Bye! And stop streaming.